Buenos días, clase. O buenas tardes. I don't know what time you're watching this. ¿Quién me falta? Todos. Qué triste. Hopefully you're doing well. And today we're going to do a review video on the preterite tense versus the imperfect tense. So remember, we have the beast of the preterite, and then we have my favorite, the imperfect tense. I'm also going to mention trigger words that are helpful for you to tell the difference about when you use the preterite versus when you use the imperfect. So in Spanish too, we learned that the preterite tense has a very narrow scope for being used, and the imperfect has a wider scope for being used. In Spanish 3, when we start learning about the imperfect subjunctive, we realized how important it is to really know the conjugations for the preterite, since that's where we start our conjugation base or our stem. But for today, let's just focus on the regular preterite versus the imperfect, and I hope this helps. So today we're going to talk about preterito o imperfecto. Which one do we need? You can also find this resource on ClyneSpanish.com if you want to look at the PowerPoint by itself. There are also more practice videos and things and exercises that you can use on the site as well. Okay, classe, so let's take a look. Remember that verb chart I told you about? Well, here it is. A refresher for you. Preterite, we have asteo, amos, astéis. Remember, that's our vosotros form that we don't necessarily need to know. And arron. And then our ERI, our verbs, is iste, io, imos, istes, and hieron. So again, our verb chart, very important for my more visual people. Okay, so remember, we have yo, tú, él, ella, usted, nosotros, vosotros, ellos, ellas, ustedes. Remember, the yo form and the él, ella, usted form have the accent marks, so be careful. Since we don't have to worry about the vosotros, you don't have to be so focused on that. But keep that in mind, and remember the trap in the regular preterite here is the él, ella, usted form has the accent on the O, not the I. So be careful with those end of year projects. That is a pitfall spot where you could lose some points on that project. Okay. El pretérito, it's specific, very, very specific on when an action took place. So actions are completed single events. So for example, nosotros fuimos a la tienda ayer. Ayer meaning yesterday, right? It's very specific. We went yesterday, all right? Actions can occur more than once, again, if there's a specific end to it. So what do I mean by that? Me cepillé los dientes 3 veces. I actually brushed my teeth 3 times. Now, hopefully you do that every day, but we're talking about it being a specific event. All right, a series of actions. So, cené, I ate dinner, I got ready, and I left for the theater. So that is implying that it was one time that I did that and I left. Not that I work at the theater and I do that every day. That would be the imperfect. Preterite. The actions always have a specific beginning or end, though it's not always stated. So los alumnos miraron la televisión. The students watched television. Okay? So that sentence could go either way. The implication is they watched television. It was a one-time event. If you meant to make it repeated, then you would have to put one of those trigger words in for the imperfect, telling me that it happened every day. An action that interrupts another ongoing action. So that's your preterite as well. So while we worked, oh, there's the imperfect tense. So while we worked, Carmen slept, okay? So therefore you have something ongoing, and then an interrupted, she slept. All right. It could also be, we use the example in class while I was doing my homework, an ongoing action. The phone rang, interrupting the action. So the preterite cut that ongoing action. Okay, so the imperfect tense. So once again, here's our verb chart, right? Remember the yo form and the ella usted form are the same, all right? Remember you have an accent sitting here on the vamos. Your ER and IR, same thing. Your ella usted form is the same. But remember you have accents going all the way through with the ER and IR verb conjugations. All right. Only the nosotros on the AR verbs for the imperfect tense. Okay, el imperfecto. All right, this is something that's more generally occurring. So kind of your background information. It was a stormy night, that background information, all right? So the actions do not have a definite beginning or end necessarily. So mis amigos navegaban la red. My friends, they surfed the internet, all right? I don't know how long they did that or how many days or whatever. It's just background information. Actions are continuous or habitual. This is really important. This is a big flag that you're using the imperfect tense versus the preterite. So when you were young, you played tennis, all right? Or I'm not being specific here. I'm simply saying as a youth, you played tennis. I don't know if you played one summer, 2 summers, or maybe you've been playing it since you could hold a racket. Who knows? All right. Unlike the preterite would say you played tennis yesterday, or maybe you played tennis for 3 days. Very specific. So hopefully you can see the difference. All right, these actions occur at the same time as another. So for example, while I was studying, I was listening to music. You're doing those 2 actions at the same time. David leía, he was reading when Esteban was studying. All right, both actions are taking place at the same time. One isn't interrupting another. It's just an ongoing action. Actions that give background information such as time, age, physical or emotional conditions, states of being, physical characteristics or descriptions. Much wider scope than the preterite, right? So here you have everything that the imperfect tense is going to be used for when talking about a past event. Aren't you glad that this is the tense with the wider scope after living through preterite? All right, let's take a look. There's some verb conjugations you have to be careful with because if you say it in the preterite, it means one thing. And if you say it in the imperfect, it can mean another thing. All right? So let's look at the verb conocer. If you say preterite, it means you met someone. Oh, conocí a Roberto. I met him. Okay? But if I say it in the imperfect tense, it means I knew him. All right? So conocía a Roberto. All right? Different meaning. Poder, to be able to, means you could or you succeeded at something. But if it's in the imperfect, it just means podía hacer mi tarea. Could have done my homework, but maybe I didn't. All right. Querer, all right, to want, to wish, right? It means you tried to do something. It was a completed action. You tried to do something versus I wanted something. Quería estudiar, right? I wanted to study. No querer means you refused or you didn't want. Saber, you discovered or found out something. Supe la verdad. I knew the truth. Versus sabía mi vocabulario. One or the other. Tener means you got something. You were physically given something one point in time. Tuve el regalo, right? I got the gift, but tenía que estudiar. I had to study, all right? So these are some key words, again, that simply change their meaning depending on which tense they're in, which is important to know, especially if you're trying to communicate with someone verbally or if you're doing a writing assignment. Really important to understand that these particular words can take on a different meaning. All right, so keywords and phrases in the preterite. If you are taking notes, this would be a good thing to write down or get a picture of. So for example, if you see these words in a sentence, you're going to know you're working with the preterite. Remember, very defined, very narrow scope. Yesterday, day before yesterday, last night, back then, this morning, last week, last year, hace 2 años, or it could be el viernes, el lunes, el sábado. Remember, you're being very, very specific. So again, if you're taking notes, maybe pause for a moment, write these down. These will be helpful intro phrases or helpful words to know for your writing. Okay, now for the imperfect tense. Just as the preterite had some words that could kind of direct you in their direction, the imperfect does too. So if you see these words, again, if you're taking notes or if you want to get a screenshot, this is another good screen to get. Reason being is knowing what these words are can also help guide you towards, am I using the preterite or am I using the imperfect? So often, right, a veces, sometimes, cada día, every day, each day, you see that, a repeated action, imperfect. Con frecuencia, frequently. Every now and then, every once in a while, generally, key right there. Mucho, a lot, siempre or nunca. Keep your eyes open for these. They really will guide you. And hopefully I can see some of these in your writing assignments. You can navigate a little easier, like I said, between preterite and imperfect. Okay, let's just finish up here with a little bit of practice and see if you got it. So Cisco pescar con su abuelo cada verano. So Cisco, and then we have 2 fish with his grandfather every summer. So first of all, which one are you going to use? If it's every summer, it's a repeated action, right? So you've got the imperfect, right? So pescaba. Julio y Pedro, now we have pescar again with their grandparents la semana pasada. Last week. Notice the difference between the 2 sentences. I'm being very defined here. It just happened last week. It didn't happen every summer. This just happened last week. So therefore the preterite, pescaron. And then yo siempre, look at the key word there. Siempre means what? Always, right? So yo siempre, tarde is late. Look what kind of verb this says. This is a reflexive verb. We know that all verbs in Spanish end in AR, ER, and IR. There are verbs where we add an SE to the end, and I'll be talking about those in a separate video. This is a reflexive verb. That means we take off the SE and we put it in front of the verb, and then we conjugate the verb because the action is reflexive. It's coming back on the original person. So I always go to bed late. So yo siempre me acostaba tarde. Pero anoche, but last night, you went to bed early. Reflexive again. Take off the se, you put it in front. Te acostaste. This is preterite because it's about last night versus always. I hope this helped, and I hope this gave you a little review. If you need more help, go to the ClyneSpanish.com website, and there's more stuff there. If you search preterite, if you search imperfect, there are videos there. My class handouts are there, and even some other videos by, thankfully, Senor Jordan. He does such a good job, and hopefully that helps. All right. Hasta pronto, clase. I hope you're doing well. I miss you. Adios.